This homework practice worksheet has 8 problems. I broke it up into 4 steps. I'm going to do step 1 in this video of finding the vertex and the axis of symmetry because they go hand in hand. Once I do step 1 in this video, I want you to try to do step 1 for all 8 problems. You need to be able to master finding the vertex, the minimum or maximum of each of these quadratic functions before moving on to the next steps. So, for step 1, the first thing I should notice always with quadratics is if I'm looking at number 1 here, the initial value, it is negative. So that should tell me, just to make a mental note, that this is going to open down. Open down. And that means that it's going to have a maximum. So I know that my vertex is going to be a maximum in this graph. Now, in order to actually do the algebra, I need to factor out this negative. So whenever you see a quadratic that begins with negative, like negative x squared, you need to factor that negative out. So number 2, you're also going to have to do this. If you notice, though, number 3 is positive, so you won't have to do this step for number 3. You can just go into finding the vertex. But in order to factor out the negative, I'll put step 2, factor out the negative. If necessary, I'm going to write negative 1 parentheses. Now, technically, I'm going to erase this so you can see it a little better. Technically, the negative x squared, the number before that x squared is always a hidden coefficient of 1. But if it's 1, you don't have to put it. So I'm going to factor out the negative, meaning when I do that, all the signs on the inside, this was a negative x squared, it becomes positive x squared. This was a negative 8x, it becomes a positive 8x. And this was a negative 12, it becomes a positive 12. Because you divide everything by negative 1, so it switches the signs. Once I do that, now I can go ahead and start working to find the vertex and axis of symmetry. So to find the vertex, you're going to use the formula. The x value equals negative b over 2a. That is the formula you always have to use. And again, if I'm going to label this, my a, I'll continue down here, a. Now I'm going to reference the whole reason, the whole purpose of factoring out negative is now I get to work with a positive friendly function. So my a now is a positive 1. My b is a positive 8, and my c is a 12, positive 12. So I can go ahead, in order to find the vertex, I'm going to input my b and my a into the formula. So I'm going to have x equals negative, my b is a positive 8, over 2 times 1. Now, notice that there's only one negative now in this formula, right here. Meaning my final answer is going to be negative. If there was 2 negatives, I'm going to turn it to positive. So 2 times 1 is 2, so 8 divided by 2 is, I'll write that though, negative 8 over 2, and that equals negative 4. So the x value of my vertex is negative 4. In order to find the y value now, this is the x value of my vertex. In order to find the y value, before I do that, the x value of my vertex is also the axis of symmetry. So we have done this part of step 1. You've already found the axis of symmetry. Please square that in so that I can see that that is the axis of symmetry. So to find the y value, I plug my x value back into the original function. I'm going to use this right here. So you have to make note that it's negative 1, parentheses, negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 12. Close the parenthesis. If I enter that into my calculator, I should get a y value of, wait for it, please put that in exactly as you see it, -1. Please try this as I'm doing this. Parenthesis, another parenthesis, -4, raised to the 2, so make sure you have -4 in parentheses, plus 8 times -4, plus 12. Close the parenthesis. That gives me a y value of +4. So far, at this point, I am done finding the vertex. I have the x value and I have the y value. So for step 3 or step 2 and some other ones, please plot or write in a coordinate point, -4, 4 is my vertex, and square that as well. So I have the axis of symmetry right here, and I have the vertex right here. I can go ahead to finish off part 1. There's multiple steps for this part 1 to find the vertex and axis of symmetry. I'm going to plot my vertex. I'm going to go over to -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is my vertex. At this point, if you've been able to plot the vertex, you are done with part 1. You can move on to part 2 and 3. So technically, I'm doing part 4 as I go. We're going to plot each point as we go. That is how you find the vertex and axis of symmetry.